All right, I'm back. Like I said I would be. Um, Let me set you up here. I'll tell you what. First, let me let you get a look. See, this is the cowl panel that goes over this and covers all this. Like I was saying earlier in the earlier video, the wiper arms that are on these shafts right here, they would not release at all. It was really bad. I uh, eventually had to get a puller and use a puller on them to pull them, literally pull them off of the stand. I mean, like a gear puller. Wow. Yeah, and they didn't release until they popped. So they usually aren't like that. Most of the time, they're just they just simply come on off and then that's it. But that's the way this one was. Um, anyway, there's a series of bolts in here, in this panel here, this trough that also houses all the wiper linkage. You want to make sure disconnect your wiring harness to your wiper motor and everything like that. Also, of course, your washer fluid hose. You want to make sure and get that off. Tell you what, I'm going to set you up right here so maybe you can see at least some of what I'm doing. Okay. I don't really have a stand. I should have a stand, but I don't. So, my apologies. Okay. All right. Let's see. Let me. All right. I got this off. So, let me go ahead and put this in the vehicle, and I want to speak to you about that just a little bit. Like I was saying earlier, this vehicle hasn't been very well taken care of, and that's unfortunate because this particular minivan, when it was newer, it was probably really super nice, and it was probably a it was probably really actually probably a stunner for especially for a minivan. But um, you want to you saw me putting stuff inside the minivan, and you've probably seen me putting stuff inside vehicles I've been working on before. I want to speak to you about that, in that I'm not doing that to harm the vehicle in any way at all. I'm actually doing that so that I can keep up with the parts and the pieces that go to that vehicle. Okay? That's what's important. That the you're maintaining those parts and pieces that go to that vehicle that you're working on. Because if you don't, what can eventually happen is you can wind up losing some of those parts and pieces, and then uh, you're like, okay, well, we got to go to the salvage yard, or we got to go to the dealer, or we got to go to the parts store and go get everything. So that's the bad part. Okay, so losing stuff that, to a vehicle that you're working on really stinks. Now you'll also see me lots of times using these magnet trays. Now they're actually pretty inexpensive, and you can pick one up nearly anywhere. I mean, Walmart even sells them, and you can pick them up for not a heck of a lot of money. And so if you can, invest in a couple of those. However, you can actually make them. Got an old baking pans that your wife's throwing out or something like that, or somebody's throwing away? Grab you up one, and there you go. Okay, so get you some magnets, some JB Weld, some really good duct tape, and you're set. You've got your own magnet tray. Okay, so that's what's important. Keep up with the bits and pieces. Now, you may not even have, however, you may not want to make one, or you may not have been able to buy one. You can still go old school, and you can still use stuff like, uh, you still use stuff like boxes, small little boxes, hold nuts and bolts in. That's actually a very nice way to hold everything in there and keep it located without losing anything, which is really, really great. There we go. Got that one out. Yeah, there's a series of bolts, about like 6, I think, that holds this in there. Then there's about 4 10-millimeter nuts, and these brackets. I think these brackets. Okay, here we go. Had to get a little brutal. Okay. These brackets right here, I don't have to take them off, so that's pretty nice. It's just a fiberglass panel, so don't get too crazy with it. You just want to be really careful and gently get this thing out of your way. Okay, look at there. Look how much more space I've got there now. Okay. Like I was saying about putting stuff inside people's vehicles, yes, it is a way for me to keep up with the parts that I'm taking off of the vehicle. And some people might be like, well, you're getting people's vehicles dirty. Well, I'm making sure that wherever I'm putting them, I've got stuff down that won't allow the seats or the carpet to get dirty. Also, too, I go through and I make sure that stuff is not leaking fluids and grease and oil and that kind of stuff. So I'm making sure that I go through and all of that stuff is taken care of. You know, again, like I was saying earlier, taking care of the customer's vehicle is of a high priority to me. It's very important because, that's the part of the customer's experience, and that's one of the first things they're going to see when they get in their vehicle and they see a bunch of nasty carpet or nasty greasy boot prints on their white carpet or light colored carpets in their car. They're going to see that. And when they see that, they're going to be like, I don't know if I'm going to take anything back to that guy. Whoops. My apologies. But anyway, yeah, they're going to be like, I don't know if I want to take anything back to that guy. So, let me see if I can get you a better spot. Okay. But yeah, they'll be like that. They'll be like, I'm not sure I want to take anything back to that guy because he got my carpets dirty and I had to spend a lot of time cleaning them, or I had to pay somebody else to clean the carpet. See, the thing of it is, nowadays, a lot of people just simply don't have time to do a lot of that stuff. I mean, they're at work all day, several, maybe even considerably more than 8 hours. And maybe they're, 10, 12, even 14, 16 hours, so you can't just go and do whatever you want to.